Hey, everybody. Welcome to Cincinnati Real Producers Podcast, powered by Next Door Photos. I'm Patrick Braddick, owner and publisher of Cincinnati Real Producers.
And I'm Daniel Ziegler, owner of Next Door Photos. Every week, we're getting to know Cincinnati's top realtors.
Our goal is to elevate and inspire the real estate community throughout greater Cincinnati.
All right, today we have Danny Barron of the Barron Group, brokered by Keller Williams Advisors. Danny has been selling real estate since 2018 and earned the Rising Star Award and the Rookie of the Year Award at his brokerage in his first year. He received the Young Alumni of the Year Award at Cedarville University in 2022. His team is ranked as the #1 team at Keller Williams Advisors in Cincinnati and the #2 large team in all of Cincinnati according to Real Trends in 2022. His career sales volume stands at an impressive $180 million, and in 2022 alone, the team's volume was just shy of $55 million. Welcome to the show, Danny Barron.
Thanks, fellas. Happy to be here with you today.
Gosh, dude, you've done more in 6 years than some people do in 20. It's
Well,
outrageous.
I met you early, Patrick. That's what it was, baby. You got me rolling.
Get out of here.
I was like, they do a magazine? I got to be on that cover.
Well, yeah, thank you. And, of course, it's our pleasure. But Young Alumni Award, what's that all about?
Honestly, and I said this when I won it, it honestly was probably the most important. Like, that's a big, long, cute list and everything. And it's cool to be recognized in the city for what we're doing. We want it to be bigger than real estate. And Cedarville University, so I went to a Christian school, and they reach out, and I didn't even know this at the time, but they recognize a young alumni every year, and then they actually invite them to come back and speak in chapel. So I had the honor of going back to Cedarville. The chapel holds about 4,000 people. It's jam-packed, and I had to go speak for 50 minutes, you get?
Whoa.
And it was awesome. Like, it was really cool to go back to my university, and just realizing, like, when I was there, real estate, you guys know this, it feels like no one starts out in real estate. They get there later.
Mm-hmm.
So I came out and was in market research after school, and then spent some time with Justin Doyle Homes, a local builder, builds a great house. But long-term sales for me with a builder wasn't the thing. But those experiences took me to real estate. So landing in real estate and then going back to Cedarville, where I had never, ever thought for 1 second, oh, I'm going to graduate from college and go be a realtor.
Right.
I actually had some friends, maybe two, one specifically I can think of that's now with Keller Williams in New Hampshire. And he, at the time, was doing a real estate class at Cedarville and had even said, like, oh, I'm going to be a realtor when we're done. You should do that. And I remember being like, nope, I'm not doing that. And here we are, guys.
Here we are.
6 years after a couple weeks. So I'm, I guess, 10 years out of school now and just coming up on 6 years in real estate. So it's been a blast.
That's awesome. Very cool. Well, I feel like I am the odd wheel here, the fifth wheel, the third wheel, wherever you want to call it. These two guys are like best buds here, and I'm just now meeting Danny for the first time pretty much.
Well, here's the thing, though. You have a respect in the industry because of your craft and what you do, and I know that Patrick partners with the best. So
Well, I appreciate that,
or any time I've sat down with Patrick and anyone else, it only goes very well. So I have no question. And you have a great name. Honestly, if we can just get that right out of the way up front. A couple Daniels and Patrick. Who's the odd man out now, buddy?
Who's the odd man here? It's not you. Oh, man, that's wild. So, yeah, Danny and I have known each other for, I don't know how many years now, but it's been almost a little after he started. You were only in
It's probably
for like
been 5 years.
a year or so, and I heard Danny's name and the ripple effect that he was causing across real estate. And it wasn't so much the sales volume as much as it was the culture that he was building. So I think when I think about how to emulate a real estate team, there's a few names that come to mind, and one of them is yours, Danny. I think the culture that you've built with your team and your group is incredible, and I think the real estate agents in Cincinnati recognize that too. Like, I think everybody that I've ever talked to is always like, I love working with Danny. Like, man, and I'll say this, Keller Williams didn't know what they got when they got you. I'll say that right now, because everybody else wants you, and it's like, and your loyalty and everything like that is wonderful, and Keller Williams is a great company, obviously. So I just, your business has just been a prime example of what I think, everyone should try to emulate, even though you've only been doing it for 6 years.
Thank you, man. That means a lot.
And we've done, we've done panels of interviews with top agents in the market, and we've had 20-year agents, 15-year agents, top agents, and then Danny Barron, 6-year agent.
Right.
Because I'm telling you, man, it's like 6 years in, it's like he's been doing it for 20 years. So, I think it's a testament to the business that you've built. So congratulations on everything, man.
Yeah, it's just so people-based, man.
Yeah.
And this is what I've told anybody, and this is the big conversation for anybody. And even if somebody listens to this that's considering getting into real estate, it starts with, what did your life look like before real estate? And the reality is, if you want to build a business like our team has, it's going to be based on existing relationships that are already there. Mm-hmm. And then how do you treat those people? And so my big questions for people that are going to get into real estate are, like, frankly, without being objectively weird, like, do people like you? Is it a great start? Because if no one likes you,
right.
This is a business where you have to get calls to, and that goes the same with shooting photos or having somebody in a magazine. Like, if nobody likes you or wants to sit down with you, that's a rough start in any business.
For sure.
And then number 2 is, do you know anybody around here? Because you could have grown up in, and we have agents that did grow up outside of the city, and their strategy to launch with our team has had to look a little bit different than somebody that, their dad was a doctor and their brother's a lawyer and they're all in Cincinnati. That's just a much different ground to start from than, I moved here 5 years ago. So the systems that we've put in place really are to try to bless our people. And we're pretty open that we're not a Christian company per se, but the principles by which I operate my company are very much biblically based. And for us, it's going to be about loving people well and honoring the Lord in our work. And I think God wired us to work hard. So for me, that doesn't mean abandoning my family. And I think Keller Williams models this perfectly: God, family, and then business. But that doesn't mean you're not working hard in your business. That's stewarding the time that we've been given. And it's an opportunity for us then to, with the people we genuinely do love, we don't have to fake that. When you genuinely love somebody, you're going to work hard for them. And you can't leave, especially if you want to have a legacy of a business that actually cares for people. You can't ditch people midway through the process or not pick up your phone. Or so even now, we were just chatting, I'm heading to Europe in a couple hours, and it's the first time I will have signed off from real estate.
Are you leaving today?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Real estate, the Real Producers Podcast had to come first,
man.
baby.
Yeah.
So,
delay that plane.
But when I leave, it's the first time I'm going to have like an out of office on in probably a couple years. And this is a business you can navigate from the beach vacation and everywhere else. But it's a huge priority for me that when my wife and I leave this time, I'm not on my phone, and that we are present and going on this anniversary trip together, which has already been delayed because of seasonality of life and things like that. So we're excited and thrilled to go. And I think for me, knowing that I will shout out Mitch Kenny, and and love Mitch already.
Mitch is great.
You'll meet Mitch one day. He is just the rock solid operations guy behind our team. And his leadership within our team and his passion for people makes him just, everyone loves him. And it's not because he's the loud life of the party. It's because he's such a solid guy. And he took what at the beginning was Danny running around like crazy alone, joined me and put it all on paper and created systems for our team to operate within. And those have continually been refined. But I can just tell you right now, it's not me refining the systems of how our operations team is updating people and the templated emails that go out to make sure they know what's going on. That's Mitch's brain power behind the scenes. And then now having Amber and Sam and some others on our operations team that are playing that out, that's not me, guys, but that is the benefit of bringing on and partnering with people that are insanely good at what they do. So that's been a big step, is finding those people. And I feel like God has just dropped the perfect people on our team to be able to do what we do and to be able to honor him in doing so.
That's awesome, dude.
That is awesome. I mean, you've got to hire your weaknesses, and it starts with self-awareness and knowing where your weaknesses are.
I think that is such a good statement. And some people might be like, well, I don't want to admit weakness, but a great way I've heard it described too is, what are the things that are draining your energy? Mm-hmm. And if you are trying to do things, so I'll give you an example. When we get a referral in this business, we love to send whoever sent that person to us a gift card or a nice note or both or whatever it is. And at one point when I was by myself, this is probably 5 years ago now, I had a Post-it note, and maybe new agents or people that are on their own can resonate with something like this, whether it's referrals or something else. And I was writing down all the names of people I needed to send a gift card. And I got to the 20th bullet point on my Post-it note, and I still hadn't sent any of them. And I realized it had been 3, 4, 5, 6 months since some of those had come in. And I started to think, like, some of these could be like awkward to send now because it's been so long. And it's like, at what point is there no point of return? Yeah. And then I had to turn the Post-it note sideways and was filling in the gaps on the Post-it note. And after, I'm not trying to be funny here, after about 12 to 15 months, I ended up crumpling it up and throwing it in the garbage. And then I created a system, which now we have a Google form that Amber sends out for me because she created it, and now I can just send it via text link. But then when we get that in, there's a system that pings Amber to like move forward on that. Because I had to realize I'm not ever going to do this. Like, I want to more than anything in the world. I would love to sit down and write both of you guys a handwritten note after this, but I have to very practically look in my life and go, maybe I just need to text you guys after and be like, hey, thank you. Like, and from me to you, if I do forget to say it, thank you guys for having me on. This is awesome. But like systematically, I have to know my weaknesses, like you said, and maybe that's just like, what are the things that are, because that Post-it note weighed on me on a daily basis. It's like a reminder that you're failing at doing this one thing when there are so many other things we were doing that were awesome. But it was just like, gosh, that thing that I can't get done. At some point, you have to find somebody who's amazing in that field and set them up to win, and it's going to make your whole team better.
Yeah.
For sure.
I was talking to my dad about that, and he was always saying, he was like, do you know the CEO is typically not the smartest person in the room, right? And I was like, really? And he was like, yeah. He was like, because somebody will go up to the CEO and say, do you know this? And he was like, no, but I pay this person a lot of money to make sure they know it. And he was like, we delegate, we put people in position to succeed and make the business better.
That's it.
And I'm like, that's so true, man. Like, that's so true. And
Can I give you a sports analogy?
Yeah.
I played college basketball at Cedarville on the JV team. Don't get crazy. I was on the JV team. And I was the captain of the
Duke,
JV
dude.
team. That's it. Yeah, exactly. Like Duke B. And I was JJ Redick. So anyway, essentially, any team that I've been on, and this goes through high school all the way up through college, playing basketball there and soccer in high school, I was always the captain of those teams. And that's not like a bragging. It was like personality-wise and knowing the game and knowing and loving the guys and being a culture guy, like naturally fell into being the captain of those teams. But I can promise you I was not the best player on any of those teams.
Right.
I can promise you I didn't have the most goals or the most points, except maybe one night, or the most assists even. But like, on all those teams also, I was the point guard on the basketball team, the center midfielder on the soccer team. Those are natural distribution positions. I know who the best player is, and I get him the ball. That's sports, but what do I do now? It's like exactly the same thing. We have agents on our team that are phenomenal on both sides of the river, and we have operations people on our team that are fantastic and gifted at what they do. My job is to get them the ball in the right spot and to not expect them to be able to thrive in an area. I'm not asking our operations people to get up on stage and share about listing how. That's not their, but they know the process better than maybe anybody in the world. They might just not want the microphone to talk about it. So there has to be an element of knowing your people and also knowing the process and then putting people in the right spot. And to me, it feels like the extension of sports, which I still love and play in recreational ways and lifting weights and stuff. Like that competitive thing for me, real estate gets that because there is a leaderboard and I love that.
That's awesome.
But I don't want to be consumed with being at the top of it because I would much rather have a fantastic marriage and a fantastic relationship with everybody on our team than I would see the Barron Group at number one. Because then what? I wake up the next day and we might lose the number one spot. What's that going to do for you? Even Tom Brady won how many Super Bowls and still had that quote where like, it feels like something's still missing. And for me, I don't want to win whatever this is and pretend like that's it. That's not it. Like life is bigger than that. And I think God put me on earth to have awesome relationships with people, to point people back to Jesus. And at the end of the day, just to work hard for my wife and for my family to honor the Lord in that. It's not about selling the most houses or making the most money. And money, while it can make life way easier, is not the end all be all. It's just not. So I think people think of the real estate industry, oh, well, you must be in it to try to get rich. I'm like, I'm in it because I fell in it backwards and it's been an awesome way to serve people. And the more people that we serve, the more that we have found those people go tell other people about us. And at this point, I do say, and again, for people starting out in real estate, I've often said it's unfair. And what I mean by that is if you walk in for your first ever listing appointment and I'll pick a name that was your first guest, Scott Euler's coming in after you, it's not fair when the person says, well, tell me about the houses you've sold, right? And it's your first ever big listing appointment. Scott's like, well, we did 900 this year, so which one do you want to hear about? It's like, it's not fair. But once you get the momentum rolling, it's very fun to be on the not fair side. But to agents that are starting out, it is relationship based. And for us, what I have found is a lot of time, it's not us walking in and then Scott coming afterwards. It's that we got the only call. Because they believe in me or they believe in Johnny on our team or Andrew Duncan or Wes or whoever it is, that they want to work with that person and they trust that person. So we actually don't find ourselves in a lot of situations where we're bidding against other agents because usually people have already decided, hey, we follow the Barron Group, we go to their events, we love what they do, and we want to work with them.
Sure.
And that's awesome. And guess what? There's enough business in the city for a lot of realtors to make a great living, even though that number is going significantly down right now, and that's stressing everybody out.
Well, and realtors are going down too.
Yeah, it's true. It's true, and that's going to balance out.
You're going to weed out a lot of realtors that, don't want to be in the industry anymore. And they're going to, it's still going to be challenging for the people that are here, but the relationships that you built and the referrals that you get are second to none. So like, what do you do to stay in front of those types of people? And this is a big segue because Danny is probably the best event real estate agent in the entire city. And I say that there's a lot of people who run great events from a real estate perspective. Danny's are on steroids.
We try to juice it up.
And I was going to say crack, but like we're biblical here. So we're going to get rid of the crack.
You can't say that.
Crack kills. We don't like crack.
So is this the secret sauce then?
This is the secret sauce, man.
And it's so simple. Danny, take it away.
Yeah. So, and this won't shock anybody that works with us.
Yeah,
or
because
other
everybody
agents,
knows about you
or
and
other
your
agents that
systems.
watch us. Yeah. And if it was fake or if we were trying to manipulate people in some way, I'd feel weird talking about it. But I'm like, dude, everybody in every business has marketing money. How do you want to spend that marketing money? And for us, we want to pour it into the people we love. And for me, what I have found, here's the secret to the secret sauce is I like a lot of stuff, right? Like I like the Cincinnati Reds. I like comedy. I like jumping on trampolines. I like going to drive-in movies. And what I've found is that there's this crazy thing, like other people like that stuff too. So for me, really what's happened with our events now is taking things that I know or love or believe in and that are good with, when I think of comedy, I don't think of bringing in like Kevin Hart. He's super funny, but like I'm a Baptist worship leader. Bringing in Kevin Hart might not fit the crowd of the people that I want to bring along to a comedy night. So when we plan our events out, it's thinking through. And at the beginning, it was just me, in which case the little kids were calling them Danny parties, which was amazing. Specifically, the Linville family said that.
Shout out.
Early on, it was like, why are you doing this? And the answer was the same thing. It was like, well, I'm not trying to manipulate you, but at the same time, like I want to provide value. And we know this in real estate. I could spend the same money on Zillow leads, or I could put that money towards people and real situations where I go, I think this could actually really bless these people, be really fun, and I'm going to have a blast. And I had an agent ask me 3 or 4 years ago, like, what is it you remember? Because it seems like you're having a lot of fun, was the phrase. Yeah. What is it you remember about this year? What was it that made this year fun? And I was like, I can tell you there were at least 4 days that I considered to be 4 of like the best days of my life. And it was bringing a couple hundred or even 1,000 people together for specific events, whether that was the Reds game, whether that was bringing Trey Kennedy into town for a comedy night. Like there's things that, and those are the huge examples. There are even smaller examples of just renting a drive-in movie theater and providing popcorn on the way in, or even to pumpkin patches at Blooms and Berries. We love to do that. So there's different elements behind it. The thought process is the same, which is every realtor needs to stay in front of their people and try to be memorable. And I think the stat is like 83% of people can't name their realtor a year later. They don't know their name. First or last name.
It's like a year or two after they forget the name.
It's nuts. So
who they bought their house with.
Yeah, isn't that crazy? So
insane.
And you guys are more in the industry, so to us that seems crazy. But like if you think about in the hustle and bustle of life, a lot of people, this is just one really stressful thing along the way, and they call Zillow, and the dude shows up and opens the door and tells them how to write it, and then they don't know who the dude was. And that's it, and he's gone into the wind. So for us, the goal is to be memorable and to provide experiences that are going to go far past, and we say this all the time as a team, far past the transaction. We want the life of working with the Barron Group to be fun at minimum 4 times a year with different things you're invited to, not to mention fun social media giveaways and everything else. Like we want, if you're part of the Barron Group crew, we want you to be like, yo, those are my people. We love them. We know they do fun stuff. We know that their media is top notch. We know if we go to an event, we're probably going to get a good family picture out of it. Like just the element of creating that fun atmosphere. And naturally the way that plays out is it's great lead generation for our business. So it's not,
I was going to say, let's get to the selfish part of this, and I'll be the guy who says that it generates leads. And it's amazing when you're top of mind with the people that you currently work with, and then you maintain that over the course of 3, 4, 5 times a year. When they do go sell their house, there's no question about who they're calling, right?
And statistically, everybody's going to buy and sell a house every 7 years. So, and what I've heard also, and this was right out of the gates, and part of the reason why we wanted to structure this way, is that if you help someone buy or sell a house and they have a great experience, over the life of your business, they should send you 5 leads.
Wow.
Right.
So for each house that we're selling, if we're doing a great job or even a relatively good job of making sure that their transaction is relatively smooth, they should be sending us people. But if you think about 5 years over the course of me probably being in this business the next 40,
Right.
that's not going to be, well, I can't believe I sold XYZ a house and they haven't sold me a lead yet. It's been a year.
Right.
5 over 40 years is not... On paper, it's actually not a ton, but if you're selling a lot of houses and there's the expectation that there's also going to be the people that send you 5 a year. And we have some of those people that I would just say are raving fans of our team, friends with the people on our team, and they just walk into their daycare yelling, "Does anyone need a realtor?" Like, you need to call the Barron Group if you do. Like, and those are the type of raving fans that you want.
Yeah.
And I feel like we have hundreds of those here in the city, which is awesome. And those are the people that do come to our events. And as they have more kids, I'm trying to plan things that are family friendly,
Right.
so that when they're coming to the pumpkin patch or wherever, they can bring their whole
It
family.
makes it worth it for everybody.
Dude, there are
yeah.
some homeschool families that are saving $100 because we do that event, and because they're typically doing 14 or 15 bucks a head, and they have 6 kids,
And they can
or whatever.
attend the
Right.
event.
That's it. They
Yeah.
otherwise might not even go. So,
Yeah.
and that's not an event that we've done every year, but that's
Sure.
the prime example of. And we do have some fun stuff coming up too.
Well, and like the Reds game, dude. Like the Reds game, he extends that to everybody. Not even clients. Not even past clients. Not anybody who wants to go. Like I've brought 12 people to the game.
You
I've
did?
been like,
Pay me
Danny-
back for that.
I was like, Danny, dude, are you cool if I take like 12
Well, dude,
tickets?
it was your birthday. That was a
It was-
birthday
it was
present.
my
All right,
birthday,
just so
dude,
everybody's
so
well aware,
I appreciate
Patrick
that.
literally got a walk-off home run on his
Yeah.
birthday from Spencer Steer.
It was awesome.
After a 2-run home run in the 9th inning from Matt McClain to send it to extras. That was hype, dude.
That was like the unveiling of those black Reds jerseys.
It
too,
was.
I think.
Yeah, the City Connect.
Those were so cool.
Dude, every time anything happened, I was just screaming at you. I was so excited.
Yeah. Well, he called it. Danny,
your birthday.
Danny was like 5 rows in front of me. He's like, "Dude, watch this. We're gonna tie it up right here." And then we tied it up in the 9th, went to extras, and won
I believe the
it.
exact quote was, "This one's for you."
Yeah, we
and then Matt
went,
McClain smacked one over the left field wall.
That was memorable. But he got like 5 sections, and you didn't have to be a past client or anybody. He opened it up to anybody who wanted to go see a Reds game. And it started 2.5 hours early because Taylor Swift was in town.
Dude, I forgot about
And
that.
that
It worked out better for families, though.
That was perfect.
A lot of
yeah.
kids that maybe weren't going to come
Game
with the
started
game
at
ending at 10.
5
Yeah.
or 5:30.
Yeah.
And I just think the thought process behind, not just our past clients, but anybody, like you want to go to a game, here's a ticket, and this is a great way for us to bless those families who may not normally be able to afford, $40 a seat or something like that, or whatever it is, and I think that's truly a gift worth sharing with anybody.
And the people that are on our team now
awesome.
are totally on board with that, and their people get it too.
Yeah.
So once they came on the team and saw like, oh, they do these events and there's no catch, because that's the big question is what's the catch?
Right.
There doesn't have to be a catch. You're allowed to do things that are just great for other people and great for your business. It feels like a true win-win.
Yeah.
And I think when people realize they come to those events and we don't have like a lender stand up and talk for 15 minutes.
Right.
And guess who else has to be on board? Our people that we work with and our partners. So our lender and our title company and all that, like people, our plumbers and our HVAC guys, like those are people that support these events because they know inherently we bring in a lot of business and we are going to funnel that to people that we trust.
Right.
Because if I love somebody and I'm sending them a plumber, the plumber needs to be good.
Right.
It can't just be like, oh, I looked this person up in the yellow pages, if that still exists, and here's their number or whatever. It's like, dude, this guy worked on 10 houses for our clients and works on my personal homes and he's going to treat you right. And if he doesn't, you let me know. Like that is how we want to do business.
Yeah.
It's not, I think we know a plumber maybe, right? Like
Right.
that's
Take
just
your
not the
pick.
way you should do it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So we had to touch base on that, but Daniel, I mean, I'll let Daniel take over the personal side of this because we love to hear about you as a person too, and I think that's what's gravitated a lot of your clients. You run a great group, but like personally, I think that you're just an outstanding person. So give us that background on you.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned you fell in backwards to real estate. I think is the way you said it.
Yeah.
So take us back to, you could take us back to Cedarville, even before that if you want, and then kind of walk us into how you got into real estate.
It's funny because I feel like I know the city really well. Like, here's the deep, dark secret. I was homeschooled all the way through high school. So, like, people, I mean, that word, right? Like, homeschool. Can you even talk to people in
I thought
public?
it was fascinating.
Yeah.
I'm like, tell me more, dude.
Yeah,
'cause it's
so
kind
and
of
here's what I would
interesting.
say. So, like, if there are homeschool parents out there, people that are thinking about homeschooling, like, I played public school sports. So it was a great way for me to be engaged with our local school district, the kids there. I grew up knowing all of them. And by the time I got to high school, it was actually still not legal in Ohio, or at least within our school district or whatever, to play for the high school unless you went there. And I had to be going for 5 classes. And it was like, I'm not going to do that. So there were some great homeschool sports opportunities around here for soccer and basketball for me. And there's more, baseball, football, whatever. And so I played for Landmark Christian for soccer, and the Cincinnati Trailblazers is a team that we now sponsor as a team, which is awesome for basketball. And some of the guys I played with went and played D2 college sports. Like, they were really good. Yeah. We would play some of the local public schools that would play us in scrimmages and stuff, CHCA, Lockland. Like, we had some good games. But at the time, our practices were I swear, they were everywhere from Anderson to Sports Plus, like Evendale to like the West Side for soccer games. So I had to learn the whole city because as a 17, 18-year-old, I was driving my Honda Civic literally everywhere.
Yep.
And then by the time I went to Cedarville, I realized, like, I'm such a people person, and I lived with all these accounting and finance majors that were always doing homework, and I was a management and marketing guy. So my homework was, especially at the time with the courses and stuff, it was very minimal for me. And it was a lot of like interactions and group projects and stuff. And then I would probably spend 2 to 3 hours a day playing basketball or lifting weights or just hanging out with people. And I remember at the time, like, some of the guys might make snarky remarks when I left, like, well, like, are you going to do any homework? I'm like, I'm done. It's like, I don't really have that much to do. But I've realized now that those guys that put in that time and effort are incredible financial advisors and accountants and CPAs, because that was their thing. Yeah, right. What I didn't realize was I was studying the people game and making the connections that even now there are countless Cedarville people that I've helped buy houses in the Dayton, Cincinnati area, because when they left school, got married, ended up landing anywhere in this area, by that time they knew I was their guy because I'd been marketing that, and they liked me in college, and it was an easy choice now. So I think realizing academically, like, I don't think anyone ever told me when I was young about just like being good with people and entrepreneurship. It was just this element of like, oh, I'm going to go to a school. I want to go to a Christian school, and I'm undecided for my first year and a half. So recognizing that, like, for me, being an undecided major going in, like, I was obviously going to grow up and come into my faith and wanted to make good friends and have a good experience. But it took me a while to even pick business. And I actually was out of gen ed classes when I picked business in college. So graduating and coming out, it was a connection. A guy I had called 2 years earlier about an internship in market research called me back and said, hey, by the way, like, I know you called 2 years ago and we didn't have anything available. We now have this internship available. And I had just had 7 interviews with a pretty big local company that I thought I was going to work for and been denied after the 7th interview.
Oh, wow.
And in God's perfect timing, this guy called within a week of that happening. So 10 days before graduation, took a job in market research. Didn't really know what that was. Did one online class in market research. It turns out it's a lot of travel. It's a lot of writing. I loved running focus groups and doing in-home interviews. But the follow-up to that was like a week at a time, locked in your house, writing a report. Yeah. And you guys know me well enough where it's like, dude, writing alone. And then, not to mention, you send it to the company, they send it back just marked up in red ink. And the things that they want you to write, I'm like, I was at the research project. That didn't happen. Like, what you're wanting me to write in the report didn't happen. And come to find out, it's big companies trying to push budgets and they need things to support certain things. It's a murky game that's all happening 2 to 3 years on the front end of innovation for companies, that products you don't even see released for 2 or 3 years afterwards. So in a world where they were taking those reports and shoving them on a shelf, contrast that now to like putting a family in a new home and then seeing their Christmas photos. There's no contest of what mattered more to me. And it's not that market research is bad. It was just, for me and what makes me tick and what brings me joy, this industry compared to that is just like night and day. And the stop between, and the only reason I got to real estate, I have a guy from my church, Justin Doyle, used to be at our church. He essentially called me out of the blue, or his president, Ryan Kunkel, called me out of the blue and said, hey, we don't even know what you do, but like, we've played golf and basketball with you. We think you're awesome, and we think you could sell our houses. And that was literally how it started. I interviewed with them, and they said something that I still will take to this day and I think is awesome. They're like, we want to hire you for who you are over assuming someone with experience can do a better job than you, because we've tried going the experience route and it didn't go great, but we want to pour into somebody that has what we think is the integrity and the ethic that we want to see work for this company.
Awesome.
And we can teach you what you need to know. So I didn't know, dude, I'm just telling you, the 2 or 3 biggest mysteries to me in the entire world are how cars run, how houses and buildings are built. I'm like, engineering stuff for me is just, it was a no-go. And now I went and worked for this builder and learned from the ground up exactly how a house was built and what kind of fixtures and finishes. He built a great house, man. So going and shifting out of that, I was their Dayton rep, and Dayton was new for them. So it is pretty obvious why that didn't just take off right away in a brand new market, an unknown name. It wasn't anything against him. It was just starting in a new company, and he's a higher end builder. So that freaks people out too when you're coming in luxury. So my sales record with him was pathetic, but it got me where I needed to be able to take the leap. And credit to Justin. He looked at me and said, hey, I know things have been rough. Like, we'd love to offer you a job in Cincinnati to keep things afloat and all that. And I said, dude, like, I've really been thinking about getting a real estate license. What would you do if you were me? And he looked at me and said, dude, I would go get a real estate license and just kill it.
That's awesome.
And so this is just the fun fact. I sold 0 houses for Justin Doyle Homes in a year and a half because the market we were in was just so difficult, and the numbers and everything just didn't work for the people that were trying to buy, because we were getting underbid by really small companies. And I got into real estate, and within the first 6 months had sold 12 houses. Wow. But in between there is a whole lot of waking up and feeling like a complete failure.
Sure.
And so remembering in the meantime, life's not about me selling one house. Life is definitely going to be supplemented by having any money at all, since I bled out all of my savings. Right. So I need to make money, and my parents would seriously sat me down at one point. We're like, what is your plan? Yeah. Like, you haven't made money, right? And I'm like, well, no. But in the meantime, I was interning at our church and editing videos for the church, and running part of the worship team and scheduling out the teams and picking songs and getting paid to do that stuff. Not much, but it was enough that God dropped that in the meantime for me to be able to get by. Right. And then when the timing was right, and I will shout out Ryan Gillen, who's a Keller Williams guy, first realtor I saw that ran a team, and my sports brain clicked. I already talked about like being the point guard, being the captain, and seeing the team. And it was the first time I realized, I can go do real estate and not do it alone. And that would be awesome. So he was the first person I ever saw that had a flexible schedule, was playing golf, got to work with people every day, had enough money to have a nice car. And I was like, that looks nice to me. And at 27 years old, I found out for the first time what I wanted to do. And here we are.
Good for you, man.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So you knew from the get-go you wanted to have a team.
That's it, man. So I knew right from the beginning. I already knew it was going to be called, because my market research background really was based a lot on design and branding also. Yeah. And just knowing like, hey, I can call myself like the Cincy House Group, and people are going to be like, don't know who that is. Right. Like, so I knew my name was important to be involved with it. I don't ever want it to be about my face, but I kind of knew that the people, in order to feel like they could still trust what I had built, if I was going to work with people for the first 3 years and then just have this team, people might be like, well, you're not going to work with us anymore now that you have this team. So like, having the brand name association was important to me, not because I need to be on this high pedestal of being awesome, but because I didn't want to lose the people that I had worked really hard to gain and follow my brand as an individual agent. So I kind of knew from the beginning, like, if I do grow this out, and people like Scott Euler had blazed that trail 10 years before me. Right. So I was like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Yeah. And that's not to bash the Cincy home groups of the world. Like, that can be awesome too. For me, the battle was going to be too hard as a brand to try to fight that. And I was like, why would I fight anything when we can just build this under the name that it started on? So
yeah,
that's awesome.
Makes perfect sense.
Especially when you know the sphere that you're targeting. You know, like, we want to go to the people that we work with already. We want to go to the friends and family. So the Barron Group instead of, I like it.
And it's cool because it's taken on its own thing now. I've told Mitch at the beginning, like, it needs to not be this, it needs to be this. And what I would show him is like our Yeti with the branding on it. It's like, it needs to be about this. And now like Barron Group events are a thing for people that don't know Danny Barron exists. Yeah. Like the people on our team that have friends from church and they know they work for the Barron Group. They don't know it's called the Barron Group because that's my name, and they don't care. That's awesome. I don't care that they don't know. But for my people, they know that it is still my thing, and it is what they signed up for and what they sold with 5 years ago and all that stuff. So it's been really cool to see it grow. And I say this in all sincerity, like, I could never, ever accomplish what we have been able to do on my own. And there's so many elements of that, of the talented people that I'm surrounded with. and their willingness to just be humble and do what it takes to get it done. Like I could shout everybody out by name down the list and be like, these are humble servant leaders that are willing to do what it takes, whether that is sweeping up the house when you have that new listing appointment because the sellers didn't clean it before, shoving their stuff in closets, as we just talked about, or whether that is, going and having to make a terrible phone call about a deal that's falling apart. And I will say this too, especially because of the podcast that this is, working with co-op agents is so critical and it's so important. And I really value my relationships with the Scott Oilers, the Sarah Woodies, the Rick Finns, the people that just, there are so many of you, I can't possibly say all your names, but like there are so many great people in this city that we love to work with. And my heart gets going when I see like a sign out front. Like I showed one of Ellie Kowalczyk's listings the other day and I'm like, I like working with Ellie. This is awesome. Like I hope they love the house. Like that makes it so much more fun. It's like gamified of working with your friends instead of like this weird, I hear about other markets where it's like really tense and like cutthroat. And I'm like, dude, that is not what I want to do at all. Like I want to be able to trust my fellow agents that we both have an aligned goal that we want to get this thing across the finish line. And I feel like Cincinnati's perfect for that. We're this Midwest kind place, and you run into some of that, but one hand in the 6 years that I've done this, can I name agents that I left? I was like, whew, I think they just hate me. Like I don't know what the deal was there.
Well, great real estate agents recognize that it's not about them.
Yeah.
It's about the
which is
clients
weird
that they
because this
serve.
industry as a whole, I think, is known as being very ego driven.
Yeah, sure.
And we want to be the opposite of that because it's not about us. It's just not about us. So
That's awesome.
Well, speaking of other agents, one of the things that we would love to ask you is about advice that you might have for new agents and also for buyers and sellers. But before we do that, just want to give a quick shout out to one of our podcast partners. So Back to Back Ministries, we're actually here in their studio space. So just wanted to let you know about them. Back to Back Ministries is a global nonprofit orphan care organization with their sights set on providing care for today and hope for every tomorrow. From Cincinnati, Ohio to Hyderabad, India, staff teams around the world are stepping into hard stories and choosing to stay. To learn more about the work Back to Back does, how you can get involved, and why a global team won't stop until every child is known and loved, visit backtoback.org today.
That's good stuff. Thank you, Back to Back.
Dude, Back to Back is awesome. We talked about this before, but know tons of people that have gone on mission trips with Back to Back. Great, renowned ministry here in the area. So I think it's super cool we got to do this here.
Absolutely, awesome. Yeah. We're super grateful for this space. It's perfect for our podcast. So with that, I would love to ask you for advice that you might like to share with the new agents. Are just getting started, kind of where you were 6 years ago?
Totally, man. And when I came in, this is the best advice I can give is it starts before you even get a license. Like you have to have mapped out a plan. You might not be a planner. Some people love to just wing it in life. I'm like, I actually thought I really liked to wing it in life until people like my wife, a little later on, I'd say stuff like, oh, I'm just winging it. She's like, you're not winging it. You're like the most calculated, like you have an entire marketing plan, like a year in advance. Like, what are you talking about? Some of life is winging it. But in this case, if you're going to go get a real estate license, don't wing it. Think about what you're going to do. I had typed up a document with what my Facebook posts were going to be, a giveaway I was going to do, the video I was going to shoot. And our full-time media guy, Mark Brad, at the time, shot my video for $75 at the time. And he now is paid a full salary and is on our team because he's just the man, one of my best friends. Also, you should know this about my team. I have like 3 of my groomsmen's wives are on my team, and 2 or 3 of my groomsmen are on my team. So these are like close people that I already loved, and then they ended up getting in the industry with me. So surround yourself with mentors right at the beginning would be big advice, whether that is at your office or even just other agents. I've had phone call relationships with new agents that even are not at my brokerage that I know from other parts of life where they're like, hey, this thing came up. Like, what do I do? Brilliant person. They're willing to pick up the phone and call somebody that has been in it and probably knows the answer. And you have to have a few of those lined up right away. If you don't have a plan, and this is what's weird, real estate specifically, people get a license and then there's this weird like shame with having it. I don't understand what it is, but people then get really scared to tell people about it because they're like, well, what if I tell them and then they don't? Nothing happens. Like, well, you got a license knowing that this is going to potentially flop. And it does for, again, I won't butcher the numbers, but in the first like 1 to 2 years.
8 out of 10 real estate agents?
80% was my number in my head. Yeah, they're 80%. Gone. So if you make it past a year, I celebrate with the people on our team, which has been everybody so far, that makes it past 1 or 2 years, because that's a huge benchmark that once you get past that, welcome to the industry. You're here to stay. You made it. And for me, looking at and just realizing like, if you know yourself well enough before you ever get a license that you're not even willing to get on Facebook and make a post that you got it, real estate's probably just not for you. Like, you need to be willing to put that out there and risk it. And what's the worst that can happen? You know, people I know that have gotten a license and then they had it for a year and then it went away, and I am not judging them 0%, and I still love them just as much. Like, give it a go, dude. This is fun. Like, get after it, see what you can make happen, and lean into who you are. But if who you are is an introvert that doesn't want to tell anyone about this, then truly, like, second guess your decision to spend the time and money on the license.
Sure.
Yeah, that's for sure.
And I find it amazing that it doesn't matter if it's the beginning of COVID or now, you know, when interest rates are higher. There's hard aspects to real estate no matter what part of the real estate world you're in, you know, like, yeah, was it easier to sell your house as a seller? Yes, it was. Is it a little bit more difficult now? Yes, it is. But that didn't make the real estate agent's job any easier, because they still had to present 40 offers to you. Or 40 agents had to tell their buyers that they didn't get the
We got really good at making spreadsheets, and now I'm having to get really good at writing update emails about why houses aren't selling. And it makes you feel, it's a little bit like I told you that in between period at Justin Doyle when I couldn't sell a house, like you feel like a failure a little bit. You're like, gosh, why are my listings like sitting here? Like, I'm not used to this from the last 2 or 3 years of COVID.
Right.
Fortunately for me, I did come into this pre-COVID insanity. So I feel like oftentimes I'm trying to share with my team and other younger agents, like, hey, this was pretty normal.
Back to
like
normal.
when I started. And also,
and it was still a hot market back then.
It was, but definitely not the 40 offers. Like, you list a house.
Crazy.
Like, guys, we've had to change some of our templates from being like, hey, like, we're going to list your house and you're going to start to see showings rolling in. I'm like, I don't tell sellers now that we might see showings rolling in. Like, they might not roll in. You might get 1 or 0 or 5, but to promise anybody they're going to roll in the current market, they better be underpriced by 50 grand. So I think you guys talked about current market landscape. It is really funny. You nailed it. It's kind of hard to be in real estate either way. There's different aspects. What we're facing right now with interest rates where they are. Last year, January 22, interest rate was at 3%, right? And they came out and said, like, oh, by the end of this year, we might be at 5%. And my head almost popped off. I was like, 5%? Guys, within 3 months, we were at 6%. It went 3% in 3 months, and everything froze. Like, all of our buyers froze. I didn't blame any of them. Here's my big thing for our team. Our job is not to make anybody do anything they don't want to do. Our job is to fully support them and get the best deal possible or the most money possible when they're buying or selling. That's our goal. It's not to sell anybody on trying to do something.
Right.
So when that market froze, I wasn't calling every buyer I had trying to make them buy. It's asking the questions like, hey, what's going to be best for your family? What's the priority? What do those payments look like? What does that make the budget now? How can we be looking for stuff off market? That kind of conversation. I feel like we're in a bit of that freeze again right now, going from 6 to 8. And I know right now interest rates are it's down to mid 7s again or whatever. That 6 to 8 jump, people that have houses locked in at 3% don't want to sell that house and then buy at 8%. We mentioned Ryan Kiefer. Shout out to Ryan Kiefer, great lender. Early in the show, conversations that I've had with him, the statistics are if the house that they are buying is between like 5 and 6%, they'd be willing to lose the 3% interest rate. At 8%, they're not willing to lose the 3%. So what do you have? You only have people moving right now that either it's really bad situations, death or divorce, or it's people moving for work in or out of town, or it's families that have just completely outgrown their house. But even families that are growing are like, buckle up, we're packing it in. We got that 3% rate, pack it in. So for me, it's not my job to make people do anything, but it is my job to find the people and service the people well that do need to make a move for life purposes. And at the end of the day, that's what this is about. It's about helping people with their lives and taking the stress out of a process that is like a top 5 traumatic experience for some people in their lives. Like that is statistically shown that buying and selling can be traumatic.
It is.
Well, it's literally in our words and our website. We want it to be fun. That is like the polar opposite. And so for us, if we can be the most trusted and most fun team in the city and do everything that we can to be trusted and fun, we think it can be way less traumatic and hopefully a way better experience with less stress. So
love that.
Interesting market, but it's fun to talk about. And I wish I knew what was going to happen next, but I think either way, if rates go up, it's not like it's going to speed up like crazy and we might get a little more inventory, but if they go down, we might be back to the crazy.
Well, that's why that's why it's such an interesting market, because rates could go up. So maybe you do want to buy at 8% or 7.5%, whatever we're at, but if they do go down, you're going to be back in this bidding war with 40 other people on the one house. And you have to accept the fact that you might not get it, you know? or your chances are that much more slim, you know? So,
And because we don't want to be slick car salesmen, you want people to know that, but you can't push on them like, well, buy now. It's the best thing ever to do. It's like, you have to genuinely mean it when you tell someone like, hey, like, here's what could happen. Here's both options.
or here's a perfect house for you.
Yeah. So now let's look at the numbers and see if this makes sense.
Yeah.
And if it does, we're going to move forward. But if not, I'm not going to be the one calling them like, are we writing the offer? Like, that's not my job. My job is not to do that. So it is to give them all the information to make the best decision for their family. That is, if I could sum up the real estate job in one word or one phrase, your job is to get someone all the information to make the best sale or the best purchase for their family. That's it.
I love it.
That's perfect.
Daniel Barron. Well, I did tell him that when he goes to Europe, I'm going to call him every day. And I'm going to test to make sure he doesn't answer his phone. So
that's a friend call. That's not a work call.
I'm going to send him
there
an
you
email.
go.
Work email.
And whether you like it or not, we're friends now too. So this is how I roll, baby. You're in the Barron Group world now.
I love it.
You get to go to the Reds game.
That's it. Yeah,
Sweet,
dude. Hey, you can bring 12 people.
There you go.
If it's your birthday.
Yeah, June 30th next year, Barron Group. I'm just kidding. It's not set in stone.
So last thing I'll say too, for our comedy night, it was the first time we did invite other realtors to come to our event. We had some extra seats.
Cool.
It was beforehand. We reached out to probably 50 that we really like, and I left out 50 I should have, but it was kind of last minute, and just making sure like, hey, our co-op agents, like, we really do want them to come, and we're not fearful that they're going to steal our people. We want actually, like, pick Rick and Holly Finn, for example. I wish they could come and have a great date night. I'm not going to worry that they're going to wander around and handpick our clients while they're there. They're great people. They're not going to do that.
Yeah.
So I think there's elements with that where we continue to want this to be bigger and bigger. And I think there's probably something in our future where we're trying to do even more stuff with co-op agents.
Very cool.
That's awesome.
Smart, dude.
Look forward to
Come
seeing
to a Real Producers event where there's other agents that you can meet.
They're awesome.
Selfless plug.
I dig it. I get a lot of value out of them. So I enjoy seeing
I'm glad you
everybody.
come, man. I love your support. So.
Awesome, fellas. Hey, thank you. This has been
Yeah,
sweet. You
thanks
guys are
for
awesome.
coming,
This
man.
is really fun.
Yeah, we're
Excited to hear about your trips and
look forward to hearing about that.
man, next time we'll have you on again, dude. We'll do an update, second date update with Danny Barron.
The best.
Perfect.
So, but yeah, man, thank you so much for coming on. Your support means a lot to us and Real Producers, and whatever we can do always to help you is what we want to do, man. So, keep leading the way, buddy.
Absolutely.
So,
I've really enjoyed our conversation. Look forward to getting to know you even more in the future.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Thanks,
yeah,
Danny.
buddy. We'll see you.